All right, so we're gonna get right into this one. I'm gonna make this quick because we're just gonna make it quick. This is Dre all day. For those of you who don't know me, some know me as Dre Baldwin, former professional athlete, author of 25 books. I've given 4 TED Talks. I'm a coach, consultant, speaker, 1,200 podcast episodes, couple thousand videos, couple thousand blog posts. What we're gonna talk about real quick here, hopefully this is quick, is I just watched the video of Puff Daddy's Revolt summit that he had in Atlanta over this past weekend. Please hit the like button, whatever the like button is for a live, hit the like button. We're going right in today. So if you don't catch this in full from the beginning, just watch the replay. I'm gonna put this video on YouTube also probably in the next week or so. So anyway, I'm just putting this up here because I just want to get the thought out quick. But Puff made this conference, only conference for black people that's for, quote unquote, the culture. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. And one of the first things that I noticed when I saw that Puff was having this event was, damn, I wonder how he's going to put it together, because he didn't sell it as a music event. He's had the Revolt Music Conference down here in Miami a couple times. I didn't go because I'm not in the music industry, and then I looked at the media that they put out after the event and during the event, and I'm like, I didn't really miss anything. And it doesn't sound like, from what I'm hearing, the clips I've heard from the speakers and the panelists, they ain't really saying shit. And this is something I'm gonna get to later on, and what I'm saying right now is one of the main things that we don't invest in ourselves. And I'm making this message specifically for black people, especially our youth. Those of you who are like under the age of 30 want to come up, and hopefully you're trying to come up and get to a higher level and help whoever you want to help through your work, through your material, through your content, whatever. We don't invest in ourselves unless it's a concert, unless it's a show, unless it's some candy, right? We don't take the medicine unless it's wrapped up in some candy. So we don't go to a conference, invest in ourselves and go to a conference unless Puff Daddy's throwing it. And when Puff Daddy throws an event, it ain't gonna be just everybody come and sit and we get the information and it's all good. Now he gotta mix in, now we gotta have rappers there, now somebody gotta perform, and then it gotta be shows, it gotta be a concert, it gotta be an after party that's somebody performing at some club. That's the only way you could get black people to invest in themselves and come to an event. And then the tickets, we're gonna get to that in a minute. But anyway, that was the first thing that I was thinking of when I saw that Puff was having this event. And I'm a fan of Puff Daddy. He's a virtual mentor of mine. I did a whole podcast episode dedicated to the things that I've gleaned from him, even though I'm not even in the music industry. So I'm a fan of Puff, and he's the only one who did it. So it's not like I'm knocking him for doing it, because ain't nobody else do it. I didn't do it. But when I saw that he was having that event, I'm thinking to myself, damn, why do we only have this one event where it's just going to be for people who want to get into the industry, the culture, whatever it is? What is it about? He wasn't really clear what it was about, so that's another thing. But then I watched this panel. So Puff had this panel for the Revolt Summit, and it was what was the chick's name? I can't even remember the chick's name. I think Tamika Mallory was one. Another woman whose name I do not recall. I don't know who she is. It was Killer Mike, T.I., Candace Owens, and some other dude who was talking stuff that didn't even make no sense. And then the moderator. The moderator was actually pretty good. The dude who was saying some stuff I did not understand, he wasn't making no sense. And there was another woman whose name I don't recall. Then it was these other 4 people who many of us know who they are. But there was 3 specific people that was making most of the points. And that was Candace Owens, T.I., and Killer Mike. So I watched this panel, and at the end of it, as I put in my story earlier, I was just shaking my head. Like, this is really not, this ain't it. This ain't really what it's supposed to be. And what most of the crowd that was at this conference was what people call, the culture. And this is Puffer was talking about this. This is for people who want to know what's going on in the culture. You want to get the information, et cetera, et cetera. That's how he was promoting this thing. And I knew from the beginning what it was going to be, because I know who Puff Daddy is. He's a promoter. He's a show guy. He's an entertainment guy. He's not an information guy. He's an entertainment guy. Maybe he's an information guy for himself personally, but when he's in the public, he's about the show. So I knew it was going to be more of a show, and it was going to be informative. So I would never even thought twice about going to an event like this. And the culture, what we call the culture, quote unquote, these days means black people who are on social media and basically congregating around the same ideas, following the same people, and spewing the exact same opinions over and over again. That's what we call the culture these days. If you're not with that, then you're supposedly or allegedly not part of the culture, which is some bullshit and a whole other conversation that I'm gonna get to actually in this video right here. My issue with this people calling the culture these days, especially for black people, is that we all had the same opinions on everything. Anything that's race related, we all gotta have the same opinion. Anything politically, we gotta have the same opinion. And what happens is we get this herd mentality. It basically means everybody's a sheep. Everybody's following the same idea. So some famous person or some known individual who supposedly knows their stuff, or they spit a couple lines that sound informative, so you think they really know what they're talking about. So we follow whatever they're saying. Then you gang up on or shout down anybody who happens to go against it, such as Candace Owens, such as Jason Whitlock. Anybody who happens to say something that goes against what the culture agrees with, you want to shout them down, attack them, make jokes. You try to win points on social media. And the problem with doing that is we all become sheep. Now we're all followers. Now we all got to do whatever is being fed to us by some person who might not even know what the fuck they're talking about. And that's the problem with the culture as been perpetuated through social media, because a lot of people just don't think for themselves. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. Now, Candace Owens is on this panel. I don't know if none of y'all know who Candace Owens is, but she's a black woman. She is a supporter of Donald Trump. She was not a supporter of Barack Obama. She was not a fan of Obama. She's been outspoken against Obama. She has been outspoken in support of Trump. And of course, because of this, without me even saying anymore, you can pretty much guess how the culture has responded to Candace Owens. They're attacking her. They look for reasons to say negative things about her. People in the culture, leaders of the culture, such as T.I. or other people who are supposedly the mouthpieces of black people on social media, they find reasons to attack her and say stuff and win points on social media by posting some clip or going back and forth with her in tweets and just saying negative shit about her. There are people in the culture who are like, well, she's not black. She doesn't count as black. She's not one of us. We need to trade her to the white people. The jokes that people make, but a lot of truth is said in jest. People really say when people joke, they say what they really mean, but they using a joke to put, not all the time I'm saying, but people use a joke to mask their real feelings and they make it so it was just a joke. But a lot of times people really mean this stuff, so they claim that they're joking, but this is what they really want to say, but they wouldn't say it straight up. But anyway, Candace Owens is on it, and I thought it was a great idea of Puff when I saw the video link on YouTube and I saw Candace Owens on the Revolt Summit panel. That's a great idea with Killer Mike, and I know how Killer Mike gets. He's passionate about his points and he knows his stuff. And T.I., who's another guy who could just sometimes flies off the handle, but he knows some of his stuff, and I'll get to T.I. in a minute. But I was like, that's a good idea. Have some people who are not going to have the same opinions and let them talk in front of everybody, put it on video, put it out to the world to see. So I was happy to see that. And when I saw that Killer Mike was on it, I was like, excellent, because Killer Mike, I know Killer Mike knows stuff. You don't know who Killer Mike is? Look him up online. I'm not talking about his music. You can listen to his music if you want, but I'm talking about listening to him talk when it comes to politics, when it comes to America. He's a Second Amendment supporter. He's like, you're not taking my gun away. I'm a proud American. But he's a big black dude from the hood in Atlanta. So he has some things, again, that might go against the party dogma, but that's why it was good to have these people with all these different opinions. So I'm like, great. Killer Mike, Candace, T.I., excellent. This should be a good conversation. And I think the panel could have been good. And if y'all didn't see this panel on the Revolt Summit, go to YouTube. After this is over, go to YouTube and watch the panel. It's an hour and 20 minutes long. And all these black folks that supposedly, a cross section of our culture, quote, every time I say the culture, I'm using air quotes because it's not really our culture, but this is what the people who have a lot of influence want you to believe, that our culture is whatever's getting said on Instagram or Twitter. And the irony is not lost to me that I'm saying this on Instagram. Now, I thought this panel could have been amazing, given the people who are on it, as I just gave you the background. The problem was T.I. was on this panel. And T.I.'s presence cheapened the panel. That's my opinion. And I'm a fan of T.I., the rapper. I'm a fan of T.I.'s music. I think T.I. has a reality show. I have not watched his reality. I don't watch reality TV or TV at all. I heard T.I. has a podcast. I'm going to give a listen to a couple episodes just to see what he's talking about, to see if it's interesting at all. But we know that everybody has a podcast these days. There's just a bunch of people talking to their friends, and some of them are interesting, some of them are not. So just because somebody has a podcast doesn't mean it's good. Just because somebody's good at music doesn't mean they're good at anything else. Just because somebody's good at sports doesn't mean they're good at anything else either. That's a different conversation, but I'm going to give a listen to it. I'm saying that because just to let y'all know I'm a fan of T.I. I'm not anti-T.I. I listen to T.I. I'm an athlete. So when I work out, that playlist that I listen to when I work out is the most important playlist that I have. And T.I. music is all over my workout playlist. So So I'm a fan of T.I., but on this panel that he was on for the Revolt conference, the Revolt summit, he didn't make us look good, in my opinion. In the opinion of some people who are of the culture, quote unquote, T.I. was great because this is what happened on the panel, just to give y'all the long and short, but I want y'all to see it for yourself so you can form your own opinion. Don't take my opinion as yours. Just listen to what I'm saying. Keep this in mind, then you go form your own opinion. And it's not because, I'm not saying that T.I. made the panel worse because T.I. is dumb or that he's not informed or that he's unqualified to speak on things. Everyone who can speak is qualified to have an opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion. Even if I think you're dumb, even if I think you don't know shit, even if I think you're an idiot, you're still entitled to an opinion. Don't mean I have to listen, but you're entitled to have one. So I'm not saying he's not entitled to an opinion. The problem with T.I. being on this panel, with the type of crowd that Puff attracted to this event, because it's a Puff Daddy event, they came because it's Puff Daddy. It's called Revolt, and that's Puff Daddy's company, is the crowd. This event was in Atlanta. Now, T.I. is from Atlanta. All right? T.I. is probably the most famous rapper from Atlanta. Who's from Atlanta that raps? You got Future, you got Migos, you got Gucci Mane, Ludacris, Outkast, T.I. T.I. is probably the most famous individual person from Atlanta that raps right now, that especially because of all the stuff that he speaks about, stuff off the mic, such as politics, such as race relations, such as investing in yourself, investing in the hood, and all these things that he talks about. So T.I. is the most popular rap artist from Atlanta right now. The event was in Atlanta. So in other words, this is a home game for T.I. T.I. is playing in front of his home crowd. Candace Owens has been outspoken against, again, Barack Obama, against him. She's been outspoken for Donald Trump. So before I tell you anything else, what the hell you think is going to happen? You put T.I. in a room who's a very staunchly against Trump in front of his home crowd, and Candace Owens, who's staunchly for Trump, in front of a bunch of black people who are of the culture in Atlanta. What the hell you think is going to happen in that conversation? We know what's going to happen. Candace Owens is going to make a point, and the crowd's going to not listen, or they're not going to clap. They're going to boo. Somebody's going to make a comment. The T.I. is going to say something to rile up the crowd, and it's going to become maybe a back and forth between the two of them. The crowd's going to get all on T.I.'s side, and it's going to turn into basically a rap concert or a fucking Instagram battle. And I'm not investing money in that. If I'm paying money to come to a conference and that happens, I'm looking at the organizers like, yo, what the fuck y'all doing? Y'all charging people money for this bullshit? I can get this on Twitter. So that's when I saw it, and that's exactly what happened, long and short of it, so we can save y'all the suspense. I watched it, and every time Candace started to make a point, the crowd would listen, but then somebody in the crowd would shout something out. Candace was making a point, and some dude in the fucking crowd starts shouting something out from the back of the room, and then some people in the crowd start clapping for that dude, and the moderator of the panel was like, yo, brother, chill, let her say her point and shit like that. And I'm like, yo, I don't know about any of y'all who's African-American who's watching this, but I've spoken at a lot of conferences that are white conferences run by white people. Most of the people in the audience is white people. I've spoken on stages at these conferences. I've spoken on panels. I've spoken in sessions at these conferences. You get up at one of those events, you're a member of the audience, and you start yelling shit out from the crowd during a panel. You know what's going to happen to you? They're going to throw you the fuck out of the whole event, not out of the room. You get thrown out the whole shit. You can't even come back to any of the sessions. Even if you bought a ticket, they throwing your bum ass out. That's just not even tolerated. But because it's us, quote unquote, because it's black people, because of the Revolt Summit, because it's the culture, quote unquote, this is the kind of shit that's supposed to go on. And I'm not saying that is necessarily bad, but I'm like, if you charging me money for a ticket and I think I'm coming here to get information, I'm coming here to get educated, and that's happening and you letting it go, then I'm looking at you as the person who sold me the ticket. I'm looking at you funny. You sold me you sold me a ticket to a rap concert when I thought it was an educational summit. Don't sell me a ticket to a rap. If it's a rap concert, tell me I'm coming to a rap concert. And then I can make a decision on whether I want to go or not. And again, we're going to get to that in a minute. But anyway, Candace and T.I. had several exchanges during this panel. And again, I'm going to say again, go watch it and form your own opinions for what happened. And here's what T.I. has been very vocal in being against Trump, he believes that Trump represents white supremacy, or that Trump is for white supremacy. I've never heard Trump once say, listen, I'm not on any side of this political shit. I'm not on any side of it. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I do not support any candidate. I'm not against any candidate. Whenever it's time to vote, I decide based on my objective perspective and opinion who I'm going to vote for, who I'm not. But I choose no Democratic or Republican party. I choose no candidate. I support no politician. Now, Donald Trump, T.I. has been very outspoken against this guy. So T.I. believes that Donald Trump is a white supremacist. Jamel Hill of ESPN, formerly of ESPN, said the same. And he says that Trump is for white supremacy. And this other chick, Tamika Mallory, she said also on the panel, well, Trump supported white supremacists, and he said white supremacists are fine people. I think all of you know by this point that what happened in Charlottesville, Donald Trump, it was taken out of context that he said the white supremacists were fine people and the neo-Nazis were fine people. He did not say that. It was taken out of context. It's been debunked several times. So any of you who think Trump said white supremacists are very fine people, please go get the information. That hoax has been debunked several times. So anybody who's still repeating that is obviously uninformed or choosing not to be informed. But anyway, now, all of that being said, T.I. has been against Trump. Candace Parker said some positive things for Trump. And T.I. started spewing all this emotional talking points that the left has been using over and over again. White supremacy, this black person could get gunned down in the hood. And Trump is taking us back. Trump is racist and he's for white supremacy because he said make America great again. And these are all the points that T.I. is making. Every time T.I. makes a point, the audience is going crazy. T.I. is getting louder and louder. He's raising his voice. He's interrupting sometimes when Candace is talking. He's shouting her down at times. And he's rallying the crowd against her. These are all things that people, when I hear people talk about Trump and they say they're anti-Trump, these are all the things people say about him. They say, you try to rally the crowd to go against somebody, you try to gang up on people, you try to bully people, you try to shout people down because you have a big megaphone. All the shit that people say about Trump as points against him, this is exactly what the fuck T.I. was doing to Candace Owens in Atlanta, in his hometown, in front of his home crowd. He's playing a home game against this woman who very, in my opinion, she showed some very stand-up qualities to show up at that summit, knowing that anything that she said, knowing her reputation, knowing what her reputation for that audience, the culture, that she was going to have some people against her no matter what she said. She showed up anyway in his home crowd, and he used that against her. And I think had he not been on the panel, there could have been some actual useful discussion there. So that's my 2 cents of T.I. Now, here's what's going to happen. For those of y'all who don't know anything about what I'm talking about, go watch the Revolt Summit panel that Puff Daddy put on and watch this from the beginning so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Over the next couple of days, tomorrow, Tuesday, I say the next 72 hours, you on social media, you just go look up T.I. or look up Candace Owens, and you're going to see a whole bunch of clips of T.I., quote unquote, shutting down Candace Owens. Or T.I. flaming her, or T.I., what's the words? I don't know what the phrases is y'all use these days, but basically T.I. got a win over Candace Owens because she tried to make a point and T.I. shut it down and he made some counterpoint that was supposedly better and he won. This is the whole back and forth clapback culture of adults who supposed to be our leaders acting like children, but then the children who supposed to be following these adults are following in that lead. So the same shit, again, the people are saying Trump is setting this bad example for everyone because he's the president and he's doing this, this, and this. But our people who are supposed to be our leaders of our culture, they doing the same shit. The only difference is because you're a fan of this guy, you're a fan of his music, or you're a fan of his brand or his whatever he does or she does, you think it's okay because the person who did it. It's not what they did, it's the person who did it you're deciding on. So Trump could say something that's completely neutral and people are gonna be like, fuck him, he's a racist, even though what he said didn't have anything to do with that. But then you get some person that you like to say the same thing, you agree with it because you like the person. The problem with that is we're not thinking. And what the bigger issue is, we're being conditioned by the people who we're supposed to be following, our supposed leaders. These guys that are on the panel, these men and women on the panel are supposed to be leaders. They're supposed to be people, they're like thought leaders. A thought leader is a person who thinks deeply about a subject and they step up and show leadership by explaining to people, I thought about this, here's what I know, here's what you need to understand, and here's what you need to do next. That's what a thought leader does. That's what I think. I'm not as famous as T.I. or Candace Owens, but I believe that's the position that I play and what I do. I think about things, I present it to people. This is what I've been thinking about. This is my stance. This is how I feel about it. Here's why. Now you take what I've said. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to accept it, but you go form your own opinions based on the information that I'm sharing with you. Go get your own information. I'll tell you where to go get it. You don't have to agree with my opinion, but you can't make up your own facts. So anyway, all these clips are going to circulate over the next couple of days of showing T.I.'s victory over Candace Owens in this supposed panel that was supposed to be a panel. It didn't really become a panel. It became a debate between T.I. and Candace Owens and Killer Mike. I do need to point out Killer Mike. If y'all don't know who Killer Mike is, he's a rapper, but he's made his name. He's been talked about a lot more recently just because of what he talks about politically, because he doesn't buy into the entire culture dogma. He's a gun owner. He supports the Second Amendment. He said, I'm not giving up my gun. I got a right to that. He's really big on that. He talks about he's a supporter of the NRA, many things, but he's also a part of the culture. He's still down with the culture despite that, I guess we can say. But Killer Mike made some really good points on the panel. He took a lot of the stuff that Candace said, and then he said it, and the crowd clapped for it, which is the exact point that I'm making. That it's not about what somebody says, it's about how you feel about them that determines whether you're going to clap or agree with it or even listen to it in the first place. But Killer Mike made some really great points, and what he said, the bottom line of what Killer Mike was saying was that we all, as black folks, we need to start looking for a win-win, not a win-lose. And I got an article coming out in a couple of days just about this specific thing. See, in sports, we have a win-lose setup. Because in sports, we got a scoreboard, right? The scoreboard says at the end of the game, this team had more points than this team. Like the Dolphins are the home team in Miami for football. Today, they got their ass kicked in football. All right, they can't say that they won. All right, the scoreboard says Patriots, however many points they have, 43. Dolphins 0. All right, the Patriots won. Win, lose. Every engagement, somebody got to win, somebody got to lose. The problem with that is life is not like sports in every way. It's like sports in many ways, but not every way. And something like this, where we're talking about you bringing a conference that's supposed to be for the culture, supposed to be for black people, and a panel, a bunch of black people with different ideas. The point is not, the outcome is not for us to get one person won and one person lost, or this side made more points than that side. It's not a competition. The fucking point is that we're trying to find some common ground amongst all of us so we can all come together, even though we don't have all the same opinions, and figure out how can all of us win, even though we didn't all come with the exact same agenda and the exact same ideas, or the same ideas, not the same agenda. But we all came with different ideas and different points of views. How can we all win anyways? A win-win. We're looking for a win-win, not a win-lose. So what happened here is T.I. is a rapper. I know he does other things, but T.I. is a rapper. The reason T.I.'s name is T.I. because he's a rapper. All right, it's not because of what he did in business, not because of what he does in the community, not because of what he does politically. The reason he could do all of those things is because he raps. If he wasn't a rapper, he wasn't famous for rapping, all his opinions would not matter because nobody would know who he was. So T.I.'s a rapper, and he was playing to the crowd, and at the end of the panel, he said something that really told me everything I need to know about his presence on the panel. He said, I'm sorry, Candace. He said, Candace, I think you were upset because the crowd was clapping for my points and they were booing for your points. And I'm like, yo, why would you even say that stupid shit, T.I.? Why would you even say that? Because it proved to me, when he said that, it proved to me that he feels like he won because the crowd was clapping for him, and that he shut down Candace because the crowd had booed her. The crowd did boo her a few times, and people were shouting shit negatively at her from the crowd a few times. But again, T.I., you playing on your home court. Like, you in Atlanta on your home court, talking to your fans, and you the biggest star on the panel. So of course they're gonna clap for everything you say. You the most famous person up there, of course. So if T.I. was to go to some MAGA rally and be in a panel, he gonna be the one getting shouted down and booed. It's gonna be the exact same thing. So yeah, you on your home court, but come on, man, like that's not even the point. So this is the thing that made me, when I was on my story, and I would say just looking at this made me shake my head, was that there are a whole bunch of people in that audience that, again, Puff Daddy, you attracted these people, Puff. You said this is going to be a conference about moving black people forward and education and all this, but then I watched it and I'm like, that's not what this is. This is a fucking rap show. This is a rap concert. That's all this is. The people in the crowd, I'll get to that in one moment. Like this, the people in the audience came there with certain opinions that they already had. T.I. is a guy who represents those opinions. He is one of the leaders of the culture. On social media, look T.I. up. He has a lot of followers, a lot of fans. He is a well-spoken individual. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he says, but he's a well-spoken guy. He's a rapper, which means he's very famous, especially in hip-hop culture. And therefore, most of the things that he says, whether they make sense or not, people are going to go with it because of his status in the culture as a rapper. That's just what it is. Therefore, anything that he said was going to be supported by the audience. Damn near anything that he said, especially when he put himself against a person who has made it clear that she supports Donald Trump, where most of the culture hates Donald Trump. So that part of it was, I believe, a misstep on a part of Mr. Puff Daddy by putting them two on there, knowing that T.I. couldn't lose. There's no way that he could lose in that situation. So I feel like, and because he's such he can become a loudmouth individual. When he gets excited and gets hyped, he just keeps talking, he gets louder, and the crowd's cheering for him. And to that point, we stopped having a real discussion. It became like 3 of the people on the panel barely got to speak because of this whole thing. So why is all this a problem? Let me get to that point. It's because most of the masses of people, and I've said this before, I said this like 3 years ago, most people do not think and they do not read. And Killer Mike made a really good point. He said, most of y'all in this crowd, he disagreed with T.I. He agreed with a lot of what Candace said, and then people clapped for it when he said it, is that most of y'all are trying to argue over who's the better master. Like, some people are saying Democrat, some people saying Republican, and Killer Mike was like, look, fuck both of them, because the bottom line is none of them is going to get us where we need to get to. What we need to do is come together ourselves, educate ourselves, know what the hell is going on, and we could create our own infrastructures where we can go to a politician and say, look, as a whole, this 15% of the American population of black people, this is what we want. Here are our points. If you can deliver these, we'll vote for you. If you can't, we're not voting for you. That's what we need to come together with, not instead of arguing Republican against Democrat or this politician against this politician, because none of that shit works. As we've seen over the last how many years since slavery ended, none of that shit has really done that much, just to be honest. And Killer Mike said this, and again, watch what he said, because he said it much better than I can say it. Since the masses do not think and they do not read, here's how they get their information. Here's how they get their opinions. They wait for one of the leaders of the culture, such as a T.I., such as who's another leader? Colin Kaepernick, I guess, if you want to call him a leader, even though he doesn't talk. They wait for one of these people to say something or do something, and then they accept that person's actions and words as the right thing, and then they go do the same thing. Not because it made sense, not because they thought about it, but because a famous person said it. See, because T.I. said it, it must be right. Because LeBron James said it, it must be right. Because this person did it, this must be the right opinion. And I'm not saying that these guys are not right sometimes. I'm not saying that they're not smart. I'm not saying that they're not informed. And I'm also not saying they don't have a right to an opinion. They're a person just like anybody else. But do not allow the famous person, the known person, the influencer, the whoever, whatever reason you look up to a person, don't allow them to formulate your opinions just because of their status and because of whatever it is they do that got you to know their name. Because that's how we all become sheep. Because then nobody's really thinking, everybody's just following. And this is the culture that we have right now. Literally, we have following in this culture. You got, on Instagram, you got likes, you got followers, you got comments and engagement. On Twitter, on YouTube, it's all about how many likes, how many followers. And this is the thing. I know it's a metaphor that I'm using here, but while you can follow people on social media, I follow a whole lot of people on social media, you still need to think for yourself. You follow people so you know what's going on objectively, but you still got to decide on your own, does this make sense? You saw a clip of T.I. shutting down, quote unquote, Candace Owens, a 1-minute clip out of a 80-minute panel. Go watch the whole 80 minutes. Don't watch the 1 minute and decide what happened. Watch the whole 80 minutes so you can formulate your own opinion and think for yourself. This is the most important thing. If there's one thing that I try to get to people is don't accept anyone's opinion other than your own. Don't accept anyone's information other than your own. Somebody shares something with you that's factual. If you want to believe that they're giving you the right facts, you can still form your own opinion on it. Never accept another person's opinion just because it's their opinion. And when people are followers of someone who's very well known and very influential, they see that person's actions as, I should do that because they did it, so now I'm gonna do it. Because this person did it, that makes it acceptable. Like Anna was saying to me, one of the things that she didn't like about Trump was that when he does certain things that may be like bullying or shouting people down, people who are fans of him are looking at that like, oh, he's the president, so that must be a good thing to do. So let's model his behavior. And I understand that completely. And a lot of what people, again, point out to Trump as bad things, T.I. was doing it on that panel. But because T.I. did it, it's okay. But because he was shouting down someone who supports a supposed white supremacist, now it's okay to do the exact same actions that were wrong when somebody else did it. But now when he does it, it's cool because, he's doing it for a good cause. Well, that's our problem, is that we're deciding what's right and what's wrong based on who's doing it, not based on whether it's right or wrong. And that's where things start to go left. And that's where thinking comes in. Where you have people who think, then that won't happen. But a lot of people don't think. So that's why our leaders, these influential people, whether they want to be leaders or not, they have a larger responsibility, because you have so many other masses who don't think. They just wait for you to tell them what to think. So when you're giving them bullshit, now they're going to go out and repeat the bullshit. Now the cycle continues. And now that's how we go backwards. And that's exactly what Candace said. So what do you do with all this that I'm giving you here? Number one, read. If I could tell you one thing to do with all of this, all right, here it is. Read. Read. Not look at Instagram, not watch YouTube. You can look at Instagram, you can watch YouTube. Read. Buy books. Go to Amazon. Invest in yourself. Go on motherfucking Google. Look up some blogs. Subscribe to somebody's email list who got something to say. Somebody who's saying something intelligent. And read. Go to the library and just sit in there all day and read. Go to the bookstore. You ain't even got to buy nothing. Just go in the bookstore and sit in the bookstore all day, and you can read a whole book just sitting in the bookstore. They got couches in there for a reason. All right, any of y'all been in the bookstore lately? You see how they got couches? They want you to sit down. All right, they want you to sit in there and read. Go buy a coffee, sit in a little coffee shop, sit at Starbucks, and read the whole book in the bookstore. You ain't got to pay for it. For all of you who claim you ain't got no money, but you got a smartphone, which makes no sense. But you get the point that I'm making. Read. Educate yourself. The number one thing that Frederick Douglass, and I'm gonna close this soon, but Frederick Douglass, when he was a slave, his slave master's mistress one day was reading a book, and Frederick saw her reading a book, and he didn't know how to read. And he said to her, "Hey, could you teach me how to read?" She said, "Sure, I'll teach you how to read." She started teaching Frederick Douglass how to read. And Frederick Douglass, y'all don't know, he was a slave. He freed himself. He escaped from slavery, and then he started writing books and newspapers, and he became a world famous speaker against slavery after he escaped from slavery. And he wrote his own autobiography. If you are black and you haven't read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, get off Instagram right now and go read it. You probably found it online for free as a PDF. Or you can just go buy it and stop acting like a broke person and buy it. Because if you act like a broke person, you're going to be a broke person. But Frederick Douglass said the mistress started teaching him how to read. And the mistress's husband, the slave master, found out that she was teaching the slave how to read. And he just severely upbraided his wife. I mean, he basically cussed her out and scolded her and said, "You can never, ever, ever teach a slave to read." And Frederick Douglass read in between the lines of what he heard from the slave master and said, "Oh, this is what keeps me a slave, is the fact that I don't know how to read, the fact that I have no education, the fact that I'm dumb. That's why I'm a slave. But if I get the information, if I get the knowledge, I learn how to read, I educate myself, and I become intelligent, then I can't be a slave anymore." That seems to be the most important thing. See, it wasn't physically. Frederick Douglass knew it wasn't physical strength that made the slave master the slave master. He wasn't bigger and stronger than everybody. He wasn't smarter, not necessarily smarter than everybody. What kept the slaves were the fact that they were ignorant. They had no education, they had no intelligence, because they didn't know how to read. How you gonna get intelligence? You can't read. So Frederick Douglass learned, all right, now all I gotta do is keep educating myself by continuing to read, because by that point, the mistress had taught him enough reading that he could do it on his own now. He didn't need her to help him anymore. She was helping him, but he didn't need it anymore. So after he found out that that was the key to his enslavement, was his ignorance, he started reading on his own. And he became more and more intelligent. And Frederick Douglass eventually, a person who was told he was never allowed to read by his slave master, he wrote a fucking book. He wrote newspapers. Now, all of you out there, you got a phone with 1 million books at your fingertips, 1 million free email lists, 1 million podcast episodes, 1 million YouTube videos, all of them, many of them with high educational content that could teach you a whole lot. And you motherfuckers ain't even using that shit to do nothing with it. Frederick Douglass ain't have shit. He was a slave, and he taught himself how to read and wrote books in a fucking newspaper. But what are we doing with, and people like to go back to, well, black people were slaves all these years and white people did this and that. Like, yo, look where we at now compared to where he was, and what are you doing with that opportunity? That's a separate conversation, but I just want to make sure I'm putting that out there so you know it. Educate yourself. Number one is read it. Second one is educate yourself. They're two different things. Reading is part of education, but education is bigger than that. Education is learning things that you don't know. Knowing that you don't know something, then finding out what you don't know, and then doing something with what you know. All of that is part of education. If you're not doing all of that, you're not educating yourself. And this is the thing that keeps people dumb. The thing that keeps people back is not knowing things and then not even knowing that they don't know things. That's what keeps you in the hole. That's what keeps you losing in life. So get your education. And the last thing is invest in yourself. When I looked at the Revolt Summit that Puff Daddy put on, I understand who Puff Daddy is. He's a hip hop guy. He's a musician. He's an entertainer. He puts on a show. As I said at the top of the stream, I've spoken at a lot of conferences, like white people conferences. Y'all know what I mean when I say white people conferences? That's a conference where I'll go to. Y'all seen me give TED Talks. You've seen pictures or a video of me giving a keynote. Those are white conferences. A white person put it on. A white person ran that shit. A white person paid me. A white person bought my plane ticket. A white person paid for my hotel room. And I'm in there. After I get off the stage, there's a bunch of people shaking my hand. Most of them is white. Okay, that's what I mean when I say a white person conference. Everybody got what I'm saying, all right? Look, here's the thing. When I go to those conferences, ain't nobody standing up in the middle of a speech and yelling some shit out. They'll throw your ass out so quick you don't even know what the fuck happened. Secondly, everybody's dressed in business professional attire. Now look at me. I dress like this every fucking day. I live in Miami. It's 80 degrees every day. It's 88 today. I dress like this every day. But when I go to one of them conferences with them white people and they write that check, I got a suit on. All right, I got a button-up shirt on. I got the loafers on. Why? Because that's the way that they do business. That's the way they conduct business. Now, I'm not saying that all black people don't do that. But at Puff's Summit, he's talking about this, the education, this, the information. But then I see the shot to the crowd. People like they're coming from the club. They're like they're coming from Sunday brunch, like in Wynwood or some shit, which is all good. But if you saying it is a business event, then make people treat it like a business. Tell everybody to put on a suit. And I was always, for years, I was against the idea. And I'm going to say this here. For years, I was against the idea, right, of if you put on a suit, then like you conduct yourself differently based on the way that you're dressed. I never agreed with that. But then when I started seeing it and I started going to these events and I would put on a suit for the events, I'm like, you know what? This actually is right. Because when you make everybody put a suit on, all of a sudden, a lot of the knucklehead shit doesn't happen. A lot of the ignorance doesn't happen. People don't feel as comfortable saying some stupid shit when they got a suit on as they do when they got on a white tee and some ball shorts. And that's just how it is. I don't know why. Maybe somebody else could do a study on that, but that's what I've seen. I've seen it happen in real life. So investing in yourself. Those of y'all who are black folks who are watching this right now, when's the last time you paid money to go to a conference? When's the last time you paid money to go to a seminar, for a ticket to a seminar, and the only thing you were paying for was the right to be around other people who paid and to learn from whoever was speaking on those stages? When the last time you did that? Have you ever done it? I want you to think about that question. And I want you to think about, because see, these days, and shout out to the white people, Latin people, anybody who's not black who's watching this, nothing I'm saying here is a knock against you, but I got to make sure I'm speaking to the black people, because there's a whole lot of these days, a lot of people talking this black shit, black this and black that, but then they're giving them bad information. Understand something. One of my men said this to me lately, and I'm not going to say what his name is because I ain't going to put him out there. Y'all let him say it for himself. But he said this to me once because he's in a certain industry. And he said, you know what, Dre, I realized something. I realized that in my industry, the industry that he was in, he was like, all the white dudes, they doing things that the black dudes ain't doing. Like they reading books that the black guys ain't reading. They going to events that the black dudes in this industry, we're not going to them. They making investments in themselves, the white dudes, that the black dudes are not making, and nobody never told us. Nobody ever told us to do these things, but I'm just realizing, Dre, that the white dudes is doing this shit. They've been doing this shit their whole fucking lives. Their parents taught them this shit. Nobody never told me this, and now I'm just catching up. So now I got to do double, because I got to catch up to what them motherfuckers been doing all these years. You understand? So those of y'all out there who, if you're black, and you look across the aisle, or you look on the other side of that fence, and you see that, well, a white person has this, or a white person got this opportunity, or the white people's grass looks greener in some way, shape, or form. Their parents, their upbringing, the school they go to, the resources that they have available to them, whatever. You think they got better than you? I want you to understand something. You might not have anything to do with the fact that your parents were broke and they decided to have you as a kid. You didn't make that. That wasn't your fault. You didn't do that. You didn't ask to be born. And the white dude who was born into a rich family who has way more resources than you, it wasn't his fault either. It just happened like that. But I want you to understand, even though you can't change that, here's what you can do. You can start investing in yourself, because the people who get ahead, they invest in themselves. So if you look at your industry or look at whatever you do for a living right now, and you see somebody who's doing way better than you, but it doesn't seem like they should be that far ahead of you, but they are, ask yourself, what are they doing that you're not doing? And I want you to understand something. Let me give you a hint. It's not that they're working harder than you. It's not that they're working 10 hours and you're working 9. That's bullshit. All right, that's the bullshit excuse. That's the bullshit reason. That's not it. I did an episode of my podcast called Insight like 3-4 weeks ago. Go listen to it. That's not the reason. It's not working harder. It's that they think different. They make investments in themselves while you on fucking Instagram. All right, they go into conferences while you watching YouTube videos of motherfuckers arguing with each other. All right, they are downloading a PDF of a book, or they going on Amazon and investing in books while you fucking, what the fuck is you doing? I don't know, you buying mixtapes or whatever y'all do. You understand what I'm saying here? Like that investment, those investments start to add up over time. And the problem with a lot of us is that we look at things as a cost instead of an expense. The Revolt Summit, I don't know how much Puff was selling them tickets for, like $250, $400, $300, something like that. Yo, the conferences that I've gone at, conferences where I've spoken at, or conferences where I attend, yo, a conference that's some real shit, real information that's gonna help take you to the next level in what you do, you're not getting no $200 ticket. That shit don't exist. Ain't no $200 tickets. I'm talking $1,000. The minimum general admission is $1,000. Period. You ain't getting in unless you paid $1,000 or more. And that's where those white people, those people that's at the other level, the people that's getting the shit that you ain't getting, they know stuff that you don't know, they doing what you ain't doing. That's how much they're paying. That's how much they're investing in themselves to sit in the fucking crowd and listen for 3 days and take notes. That's all they get. You get to sit in the crowd and take notes for 3 days. That's what you get. Ain't no fucking t-shirts, ain't no conference, ain't no concert, ain't no whatever the hell else that will get you to come, ain't no party, none of that bullshit. Just to sit in the crowd and get the information, you paying $1,000. How many of you have ever done that in anything? How many of you ever purchased an online course for $1,000? How many of you ever hired a coach for $1,000? How many of you ever hired a consultant for $1,000? How many of you ever went to an event, a seminar, a meetup, and paid money for it just to get the information? There was nothing else you got but just the information from the people who knew that shit. When is the last time you did that? And you wondering why you're not where you want to be. These are the investments that you need to be making. And here's the thing. Nobody's going to tell you this shit. I'm telling you right now, but if after today, a year from the next 365 days, I guarantee you ain't no fucking body who looks like me gonna tell you what I just told you. Nobody. Now, why is that? That's a whole different conversation. But I guarantee you, those white dudes, those white girls who coming up in the suburbs and their parents, their mom a lawyer, their father's a doctor, their aunt went to fucking Yale, their uncle went to Harvard. I guarantee you, going to those conferences, going to those events, investing in coaching, investing in seminars, investing in consulting, buying those online courses without thinking twice about it, without saying, oh, let me think about it, I might do it next month and the next month and the next month. They ain't even thinking about it. It's just a part of it's just who they are. They just do it without thinking. Like, yo, how you not going to that conference? It's not, are you going? It's how could you not go? And it's not about the money either. A lot of y'all like to use money as an excuse. I'm not going to say y'all, but a lot of people. I'm a salesperson, so I sell online. I've been selling stuff online for over 10 years, so I done heard everything. All right, from non-buyers and from buyers. I done heard everything. A lot of people like to use money as an excuse. Listen, if money is the reason why you won't invest in yourself, money will always be your problem. And I'm pausing on that because I want you to think about that. I'm gonna give you one last thing because I'm about to go to bed. Stop letting famous people think for you. Just because somebody got a lot of followers, or they have some accomplishment that you admire, or they anything about them that makes you admire them and look up to them and like them. Don't let them think for you. You can still like them. Listen, I just did an episode this week on fucking Michael Jordan. I'm a fan of Michael Jordan. I still will look at a Michael Jordan. I still look at Michael Jordan footage from when he played. To this day, I still look at it because I liked his game that much. And I'm a basketball player. I look at Kobe. I listen to T.I. I like Puff Daddy. I read books by people that other than me. I wrote my own books, but I read other people's books every day. So I like other people's stuff. I look up to what other people have achieved. I look at people as virtual mentors. I take knowledge and information from other people. I take inspiration from other people who may not even be doing the same shit that I'm doing, but I don't let anybody else think for me. I don't let anybody else's opinion become my opinion just because some famous rapper said it, or some NBA All-Star said it, or some social media influencer with a nice ass said it. Stop letting other people think for you. When you're not thinking for yourself, you become a sheep. And you know what happens to sheep? The first thing is they cut off all your wool and they make a coat out of you. The second thing, you get slaughtered. Sheep go to the slaughterhouse. Any of you ever watch one of those food documentaries where they be killing the cows and they slit their throats? If you watch those documentaries, you see the cows walk right into it. The cows walk right into it. They don't have to force the cow to walk over to get his throat slit. All they do is move them over there, and the cows walk right into the axe and get their throat slit, because cows can't think. They don't think for themselves. You're a human. All right, don't be stupid. You know what happens to turkeys on Thanksgiving Day? All right, every day they're getting fed. Every day they get that corn. Every day the master comes out and they feed them that corn. The turkey's so happy to get that corn and get nice and fat until Thanksgiving morning. The turkey don't know what happened. And then it's over. We're going to end it on that note right there. Everybody have a great rest of your Sunday night. Let's have an amazing week. Work on your game podcast. Next episode comes out tomorrow morning. Work on your game. Dre all day.